Yo, what's going on YouTube? Kronos here, and welcome back to the PSO2 video. So in today's video, we're going to be going over what they're calling the PSO2 NGS headline. Not sure if they're going to number those, or if they're just going to leave it a headline, but yeah. But if you're new here, first off, my name is Krono. I do content over here on YouTube daily. Would much appreciate a subscribe as we claw our way up to that 10K mark. We blast past 6K, which is super awesome. And if we could just get like, I don't know, I think it was like 636 subs exactly on YouTube, we'll be at that special sweet number we could comment and post nice for. Either way, let's go ahead and just jump into this. So a lot of really cool stuff popped up over on the stream, the live stream itself. Mixed reviews. I can see some people are happy, some people aren't exactly the most happy, but one thing I do know was kind of a bit of a shocker for me was realizing it's only been 3 weeks. Honestly, it feels kind of like an eternity that we've been in NGS already. It's only really been 3 weeks since the game came out, and yeah, I've played a lot, like a lot. And we're gonna talk about that in another video itself, about maybe playing a little bit less for some people, but anyway, that's not what this video is about. This video, we're gonna be going over basically what they announced in that live stream, because it wasn't a whole lot of information, but it was some pretty cool stuff. Some things that I think are actually pretty game changing, even that I didn't notice in my reaction video that I did earlier. But the first thing they talk about is the AC scratch tickets Sweet Summer. So it looks like we've got a couple of different outfits that are popping up in there. I'm guessing these are going to be the featured outfits, but we've got the water battle suits, both the male and female versions, actually looking pretty okay. I'm not a huge fan of I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of really tight outfits on male characters anyway, so probably not gonna be for me, but credit where credit's due. If you're into that sort of thing, it does look pretty dope. They also have the SF Butler clothing and SF Maid clothing, which kind of feel like, you know, a battle version of this. Maybe there's like something I'm missing from the SF portion of this all, but it does look pretty dope. I'm a fan of how the shoes look, so probably not going to be enough for me to swap like my actual outfit that I'm using at the moment, but there is something that we saw in later on that might cause me to swap whenever that pops up in the AC scratch. More importantly, we're getting more animations. We've got jump with arm spread, move with arm spread, and landing support with hands. These are all just straight up animations they took from Elder, from base PSO2. When I say Elder, I mean the Dark Blast Elder that you get access to. They're literally all of his animations, more or less. They're providing it to the character directly, which is pretty dope. The good news is these are in the scratch, and they are not a scratch tries ticket, unless they put the actual option at the very bottom saying that's a scratch, or that is a scratch ticket bonus prize, and they only added it for the very bottom one. They meant all of them, but I'm pretty sure they'd only mean the bottom one is just the scratch ticket prize, which is the swim diving. I mean, kind of cool, but probably not something I'm gonna scratch 45 times for. Oh, even saying that out loud kind of hurts. But I will most likely pick up, you know, jump arm spread, move arm spread, and then landing with sport with both hands. Anyway, moving on from there, we've got the PSO2 9th anniversary event. Come the 7th of July, we've got an event for the 9th anniversary of PSO2. Man, it's been out for a very long time, and I never considered this when we were first looking at the town, but you know, dawned on me while we were watching the video that they can show off some pretty cool stuff here. They're going to be decorating the town, which is super dope looking. It looks the event's going to be going on from July 7th all the way till August 4th. There'll be exciting changes to enemies, fields, and drops during the event itself. And they show off a couple of different enemies with these little symbols on their head, and of course these Ceremo Rappies, which they say in colorful outfits, but realistically they're just white outfits with little blues. I mean, they're dressed up Rappies. Are you really that upset about it? Like, come on. So we do have the, and I'm gonna butcher this, I think it's Phenomenologist, Andy, which looks like they just brought Zia back, but they gave her a different name because it's 1,000 years in the future. So, you know, Andy's here. Where we will have special limited quests, and these limited quests will give us a currency, and we can spend that currency in her shop to get limited time stamps, accessories, SG, are all available for those items itself, as well as actually weapons. They don't mention it in this slide, but we'll talk about the weapons in just a moment. So moving on, we do have enemies with seasonal symbols that will spawn. Now this doesn't mean that all enemies, I believe, will have seasonal symbols. They're just saying that some enemies with seasonal symbols will spawn. But they do go on to mention that Pedisvera and the Gigantics, they don't say which Gigantics specifically. I'm not sure if it's all of them or if it's just a certain section of them based on what we're going to see later on in just a moment, that will have the seasonal thing on their head. The weird thing is that these enemies are going to be weak to lightning, which for anyone who plays any tech classes We all know that lightning is one of the strongest spell types at the moment, so making enemies weak to lightning is actually kind of crazy. These guys are going to melt, so that should be pretty fun to watch. Moving on to the weapons, like I mentioned earlier, the weapons, there's gonna be a weapon series added to the game itself. We did talk about these on stream because I saw them added in. Some people were able to data mine and find out about these ahead of time, but really didn't know what they were, you know, how they were gonna be added, how strong they were, so on and so forth. But it looks like they'll be introducing a 3-star series called the Glisten series. Now it looks these weapons will have elemental potentials, not elements on them, so that's something I've seen that's been confused quite a bit. But these potentials essentially allow you to have a chance to build up shock. Now, the potentials are pretty weak in compared to just base potency wise, compared to other weapons, so I would see these as being supportive weapons to your main weapon choice. However, I did see while they were going through some stuff, and then of course, via, you know, some of our good friends over on Twitter, Uber specifically, tweeted out a picture of one of the augments that's going to be available, which we will show here really quick. Essentially, it is just it's an augment that will increase your damage by 2.5% potency if the target is weak to lightning. Now, that is of course subject to change, but if that's the case, it's going to have some pretty interesting options available for augmenting weapons, meaning you can possibly set up multiple weapons of the same type for different elements if that becomes a thing, or maybe just opt to completely ignore elements and go a different route with just raw damage. So interesting to see these sort of things pop up. We'll have to see how that's going to affect the overall feel of the game itself, or I guess the weapon meta itself, when we get our hands on it. Now, this next slide is actually very important for a lot of players. They heard you. They'll be releasing not only an emote collection, but an accessory collection, a hairstyle collection, and you heard them, a weapon camo collection. These will be all repeats of items that were available during base PSO2. So honestly, this is a good and a bit of a bad thing when you look at it. Good on Sega's and on a lot of other people's end if they want to get access to these things. Bad if you're trying to scratch for very specific items. Now, I know one thing that was really a concern for me, but of course I just missed it in the actual showing itself. But it does say that these items are going to be usable with PSO2 NGS's characters, but it doesn't actually say specifically if these are going to be NGS items. So when I say NGS items, I mean, are these going to be sold on the NGS store? If these are only limited to the base PSO2 store, that is going to be a problem. However, as long as they're sellable on the NGS store, that means people that have been able to farm currency or the limitations of that store itself will play a factor in getting these items. Now, again, we know my opinions on when it comes to the store itself, being locked behind the whole fact that you have to be premium to be able to sell stuff, though you have the access to buying things. But it depends on how these weapons are going to be, or how these items are going to be dealt with, since a lot of them did come from base PSO2. If they do make them NGS, I mean, basically what I'm saying is they need to make them NGS items. If not, it's going to make things very difficult. And my only concern with this is trying to get something from these scratches, because there are so many items in these scratches. And a lot of people were kind of concerned when they're like, you know, it'd be nice to have everything at once in just like one scratch. I can scratch on that one and go for it. But what ends up happening is that just to even get a chance of getting the item you want, you end up having to scratch so many times you have to get one of those tickets to go for the guaranteed item that you're after, or hope that a bunch of other people do it and then, you know, buy it off of the market. But we'll have to see what's going to be available in these, because there are a lot of really cool things, and the most important thing is it gives access to players who didn't have access to them before to get a chance at getting these items. Now, it does mean that if it is only base PSO2, that at the very least those prices will come down in base PSO2, meaning that players will have more access to them. However, new players are going to have a little bit more more of a difficult time gaining access to those items. So we'll have to wait and see how these are implemented. Fingers crossed that it, you know, works out great for everyone, but we'll have to see. And of course, they couldn't let us away without another AC scratch is going to be implemented. We've got Trainee line this time around. We actually got cast parts, so, you know, mad congrats. I didn't say this during, or I kind of looked at it different because of the way they tried to put them all together. But during the presentation, I was like, oh, not fair. I wish they had a male version of the black and light blue outfit. But, you know, looking at it again, of course, all of my friends let me know about it, that it's basically the female cast parts version. My statement still stands. That looks dope. And I wish that was like the male cast parts version, because the male cast parts version, I think, looks dumb. But that's just my opinion. It looks kind of silly. Wires kind of hanging all over the place. I mean, you could take them off if you want to, but yeah, to each their own. But hey, cast mains, you got cast parts. Be happy. And then there's also 3 more female outfits right afterwards. Man, playing a male character in PSO2 sometimes, It's difficult, man. It's difficult. They know their player base. They know them very well. However, these are just, they're basically trainee outfits based on melee, ranged, and tech, of course, being red, blue, and yellow. And then we've got some pretty cool emotes that are added in, as well as stances. We've got the idle power stance, which is pretty dope looking. All of my cast Billy Ready dudes out there going ham with the power stance. Or maybe, you know, maybe you want to be dainty female and you have power stance as well. Go for it. Your dreams are your own. Take them however you will. We've got emote sit, dude. We have a new sit. It's gonna be dope, as well as, and this one's probably gonna get a lot of people, the movement fairy dash. Now this one, it does say again, AC scratch tickets count bonus prize, meaning you're probably going to have to scratch multiple times to be able to get a hold of this. It's probably going to again be the $90 reward if you scratch that many times. It sucks, I hate it, but that is the way free to play games tend to go nowadays. So just how it is, nothing too crazy, but whales, enjoy that crazy little it's like a glide. Basically they call it fairy, or they call it fairy like flying or dash, but it's like a glide basically. It's pretty cool looking, and I'm actually quite a bit of a fan of it, so I'm thinking about maybe going after it, but we'll have to see. So after that, it takes us around to the second half of the anniversary event. They're going to be changing some of the sectors that we have enemies coming up in. We have basically just the enemies, the seasonal enemies are going to spawn in different areas now. They'll have more limited quests, of course. They expand the shop at that point in time to have more items, some more accessories, as well as a different set of Gigantics will be available, including Nextilio. So we got Dragon as a Gigantics as well. Those people are very, very excited to see that come along. But he is going to be one of our Gigantics, as well as other Gigantics are going to be set up as our seasonal enemies. So you'll see the seasonal symbols pop up a bit more and be able to complete those limited quests. But we'll have to see how, you know, that event goes, because it may just be one of those things you kind of do passing and then don't worry too much about it. I'm basically going to be farming up all the cosmetics out of this event, so I'm pretty excited to see that, as well as fighting Nextilio as a Gigantix, because man, he's already a pain as a regular monster. To wrap things up, they talk about our web link panel event. So we do have a couple of things that are coming up. Primarily, we've got a stamp drawing contest, as well as an item design contest and screenshot submission campaign. So the really cool thing about these things, I know a lot of people who haven't played base PS2 won't know about this, but the item design campaigns, when people win those, they get added into the game. And the coolest thing about that in the past is when they've been added into the game, they've been added into the game for free. They haven't sold them, they haven't added them to scratch, they just give them to every single player. So you know that awesome Kingdom Hearts looking Keyblade camo that I use all the time, or that I used all the time in base PSO2 and plan to in NGS? Yeah, that was one of the item design contest wins. That camo that people talk about that looks more like Kirito's swords than Kirito's actual swords, that was also an item design contest win. Those were also free camos. So hopefully we see some really cool stuff, guys. Jump in the whole, you know, get your old artist hat on, get to making some pretty awesome camos, and you might win and get your camo featured in game, which would be pretty dope. Also, we need some better stamps. We need more stamps, so be happy to see those get submitted and some of you guys win. I'm looking forward to seeing that stuff on Twitter. And then of course, like the SG scratch stuff, I'm not SG scratch, I'm sorry, but of course SG, you know, tickets, hopefully N color change tickets. I know they mentioned specifically there was a campaign that gets you a N color change ticket if you spend, I think it's like 500 AC at the moment. It's very obvious to tell that this is the very beginning of a type of show they're going to be doing, and they're going to be adding things in sections, and they just used every single section, because they literally had a section where they were like, hey, here's all the campaigns we've got going on, and they mentioned one campaign and it's like 500 AC spent, and that's it. So I'm sure they're going to have more to come in the future, but again, this is the first show. We'll have to see how things move forward from there. And that really about covers it. Outside of that, they showed off Braver. Braver looks dope, but I'm gonna talk about it in its own video. I may opt to put it at the end of this video. I don't know yet. We're gonna see how that goes. But you know, editing me, or I can't even say editing me, basically Weeb, we'll decide if we're gonna add that in at the very end. But if not, as always, guys, like on the video is appreciated. Absolve you half your ad block, guilt, or half is absolved by subscribing. Both are completely free and they do help me out a ton. If you guys like content like this, make sure to go ahead and click on the bell icon to be notified of videos when they pop up, as well as community posts, or join us over on Discord, or follow me over on Twitter for notifications via those two avenues. Thank you guys so much for watching all the way to the end. Make sure to comment for part of the end gang, or if there's anything you're just excited about, let me know about it. I love reading those in the comments, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care. Peace out.